we're back. This is Elliot and Jose coming to you from Dreamland Comics in Schaumburg, Illinois, with our special guest, Avi. Thank you for joining us here on CCW TV, the Comic Culture Warrior video channel.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. It's always a pleasure. Just to catch you up, we spent the last segment kind of, hitting on the alleged swiping, whatever, plagiarism, whatever, of Nick Simmons in his book Incarnate from other very established and more popular forms of manga, namely Bleach
Hellsing.
and Hellsing. And getting into the whole thing about the culture of swiping in comics. There was quite a bit of outrage that was expressed on different message boards and on the internet when this sort of thing was discovered. And you had very ardent manga fans who were they were insulting Nick Simmons. They were posting insults on his DeviantArt page. If you go to the posting for the hardcover or the trade release of Incarnate on Amazon.com, you will find insults posted there.
Well, let's really quick. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, but for all the outrage that was out there, and as Avi said in the last segment, this sort of thing does happen, and there are rationalizations for it. You had quite a few folks defending Nick Simmons too. You had folks out there saying that, as you said before, it has happened in comics before.
I'm not defending it, by the way.
No, I'm just saying. I take that back. Not defending. You're kind of but just kind of explaining why and how it's become to be accepted.
Well, to give an actual thing that I read, someone who was defending him, they were comparing what Nick Simmons is doing here to what musicians do when they sample music.
Sampling music, correct.
Saying that he's taking all these things that he loves and he's taking samples from all these things and he's putting them together with his own artistic touch to it.
That's like your distillment comment that you had made. I don't know if that was on the camera.
No, it was when we were right between segments here. I was looking at Incarnate, and to me, I'm in my own head, and I'm flipping through this book, and I'm going, well, what it looks like is that Nick Simmons is trying to take. Okay, I'm just playing like the devil's advocate here, all right? Nick Simmons can say he's trying to take the things that he loves about manga.
Crazy hair.
Yeah.
Big eyes. Speed lines.
Speed lines. Gotta love speed lines.
What else,
and he's distilling them into a package, putting all the different elements that he likes, distilling them and putting them in a package so that he can expose American readers who might never have been exposed to manga before to it.
What's the print run for Bleach in America?
Oh, Bleach.
Exactly. Easily exposed to it.
So
right,
Bleach.
Right.
All the volumes of Bleach so far in the world have sold over 50 million copies around the world. In America, Bleach has sold over 1 million copies.
What's it, kind of like 20,000? 20,000 print run, 30,000 print run. I mean,
I don't think
Incarnate's
Incarnate's
a comic.
close,
Incarnate? No, exactly.
Yeah,
I think Bleach is doing just fine getting the word out about itself.
I'm just saying again, that's the kind of because Nick Simmons has done interviews about it, talking about who his influences were, and he said I really like so and so, and they're really good, and I don't think I can ever be as good as them. But if I shoot to be as good as them, I'll still, like he goes, if I shoot for the moon and I miss, I'll still land in the stars. Oh my God, I hate that saying.
I use that. I have that tattooed across my shoulder blades.
Really?
But I will get it now that you hate it. No, and the thing is, Nick Simmons, from everything I've seen, I've watched a couple of shows of that Family Jewels. I mean, he seems like a really charming guy who is probably very passionate about comics, and he seems like a nice enough guy. For a man who was raised by Gene Simmons, he seems like a very well-adjusted young man. The thing is, what a lot of comic book artists do when they're learning to draw comics is copy Gil Kane, copy these artists that have mastered the visual cues that you need in order to make good comics. And what he's basically doing is kind of what a lot of kids did when they learned how to draw from comics instead of drawing from life, which is,
and he's actually
a better thing to do. But they're just getting published in a high profile.
It's one thing to learn how to draw from, people who you admire. It's a completely different thing to actually draw those things exactly as you saw them with no real interpretation and printing them in the comic as your own original work.
And back to the issue of the sampling, too, just so you know, that has been an issue in the music world, and lawsuits have been filed over those kinds of things.
Don't those artists get paid for that sample?
Artists, them, yes.
Yeah, as long as you credit them.
As long as you credit them, or you give so much of a royalty
Mm-hmm.
to the original
Right.
artist, whoever you're sampling. That's become a huge issue, especially in hip hop.
And that's why we're listening to Daft Punk today, by the way.
But do you notice that since you mentioned Daft Punk, that Daft Punk post you put on our blog always gets hits.
I know. I
People
put it
are
like
always you did
4
that like
months
4
ago.
months. Like I always check the blog stats and go, it's a Daft Punk on Guitar Hero. Oh no,
On DJ Hero.
DJ Hero.
Yeah.
There are a lot of Daft Punk fans out there.
Yeah.
People just like robot masks.
Yeah, I think they're kind of cool actually.
They are cool.
Does Nick Simmons, though, pay any sort of royalty to the artists of Bleach and Helsing? I kind of doubt it.
Forget about royalty. He doesn't even give them any credit. So, I'm not up to date on exactly what's going on with this thing. But I don't understand. I don't think he's copped to this, right? So that's why it's an alleged, alleged swiping.
Since this news came out, this is the only official stuff that's happened. Radical has
they've stopped
they've stopped the hardcover.
Incarnate,
yeah,
for those.
Radical Comics, who the 3 issues did come out. The hardcover is scheduled to come out in 2 weeks. They've stopped. They put out in a hiatus until they do some of the investigation.
Yeah, they just want to figure things out. They're doing their due diligence. Is exactly what they're doing.
And they said they were going to contact the publishers of the alleged swipe.
Yeah, which would be in America, it's
Viz Media,
who does Bleach, and Dark Horse, who does Helsing.
And Viz has no comment. I've asked.
Yeah, you have an insider at Viz. I forgot about that. Well,
English?
Oh yeah. And she's really cute too. Anyway, go on.
Wow, this is going out there.
Yeah,
how's your wife doing?
She left me for a Portuguese tightrope walker. Anyway, go
on. No, but so that's all the official news that have come out. Tite Kubo does know of it, the creator of Bleach. He has a Twitter account. Some people have on Robot 6 posted and translated some of his postings. So he is aware of it, but he can't really do anything because he's in Japan.
He's in Japan, and I've read those tweets too. And he's taken a very classy approach to the whole thing.
Yeah, well, manga artists usually take that kind of approach.
It's a more respectful culture.
Exactly.
It is a respectful culture. The guy is very popular in Japan. He makes a lot of money. A book, that has like maybe, who knows, a 20,000 print one or whatever that swipes a few panels from him. I don't think he's going to get up in a huff about it.
Right.
I just found that, again.
But if there's going to be any legal recourse, it's going to be the publishers that do
right. The thing that and that's all legal stuff that we kind of can't,
Right.
No point in getting into that. To me, what gets me is back to outside of just the swiping in general and the rationalizations for it and the acknowledging that sort of thing has happened for forever, okay? You still have people who get really, really angry when this sort of stuff is discovered.
Well, they should be. It's somebody stealing someone else's work and putting their name on it.
Actually, let's backtrack for 1 second. Not only, so we've mentioned the manga that he's stealing from. There are 2 pieces of artwork, original pieces of artwork from DeviantArt, which are for
it's fan art, basically.
It's fan art,
yeah.
That he also swiped from.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they say. There hasn't.
No.
Again, allegedly.
Okay, allegedly. But if you see them side by side, we're gonna post a link to what we're talking about.
Okay. The art pieces are too. The idiosyncrasies are just too much. One of them is like a guy who has a huge.
Has like a cow skull with like antlers.
I mean, it just doesn't.
In a black like just a black robe or whatever. It's not your like. There's a lot of drawings in here. I mean, the thing with manga and anime.
Okay, that could have been Nick Simmons' own work under a different name.
Sure.
It's not. If you go to DeviantArt and you read the comments from the original.
And the other thing
creator.
is that just from like an artist. He calls himself an artist because it's pretentious, but from somebody who knows how to draw, the skill level of those 2 Deviant pictures is far outstrips the skill level of even the cover artist of this thing. No offense to the very fine artist, but I mean
Joe Chen.
Yeah, but it's like
I love Joe Chen.
It's far and away. These 2 pieces are well, at least the one piece.
Yeah, there's a one.
Incredibly well done.
The Deviant artist is named Ray.
Yeah, and is very polished, very nicely done. Very, nice, again, I'm not a huge fan of anime or manga art, personally, but I can still tell when one is done better than another, or at least one is done more skillfully than another. Everything being subjective.
The next question then is, and this is a question that has been posed out in the internet. Nick Simmons, let's just assume, okay? Let's assume Nick Simmons was of the mindset he's going to swipe because it's an acceptable way of creating art, okay? Let's just say. Because, as we've said, artists have done that for the longest time.
Artists still continue to do it and
continue to
get paid to do it.
Right. Let's even use the whole, well, it's a way of paying homage to those original creators. Yes, it's done in music all the time.
To be fair, when it's an homage, they usually will say, like an artist, for example, might do a cover based on an old published cover.
Right.
And it'll say after the artist, So if Art Adams is doing a cover homage to, let's say, Jack Kirby, it'll say Art Adams after Kirby.
Right, that's true.
So, to be fair, I mean, when it comes down to it, artists that swipe, they're doing it to take a shortcut, to achieve an end result that they can't achieve because of their own limited skill set. It's not something that they think they're justified in doing. It's just that, how many times can an editor visually remember, their memory is not going to be able to date back to everything that's ever been printed. So,
which brings me back to the next thing, which is, so many people have asked, how did Nick Simmons think he'd be able to get away with this?
Right, it's like the old... next to Naruto, it's the most popular, or in One Piece, it's the most popular manga in the world.
Right,
like,
so...
and it's on, even in America, it's the anime is on Adult Swim every week for like 2-3 hours.
Right. So what can you say if you are Nick Simmons and come on, this is kind of embarrassing, really. It's a little embarrassing. You've got like millions of manga nerds just descending on you right now, giving you crap on your DeviantArt board, on Amazon, on the internet. What can you say right now to work your way out of this?
Well, I think in this situation, one of the things that probably, and again, this is just saying this is an actual swiping situation. If you're looking at anime or manga, so much of the artwork is, I don't want to say interchangeable, but I mean it's like Disney. The characters are made so that other artists can draw them, and you'll see style differences, but it's not like drawing a George Tuska Iron Man's a little different than another person's Iron Man, and that's a character with 3 lines on its face.
Right.
But you can immediately tell
it's a studio effort as opposed to an individual effort.
But in this situation, he probably just figured that no one's going to really notice it because he flipped it with Photoshop, allegedly. I'm afraid I'm going to get sued by Gene Simmons. But
can I tell you something? I seriously doubt that they're watching this.
Gene Simmons knows who you are. He's like Santa Claus with.
I actually met Gene Simmons.
All right. That's a great story.
Easy. And again, I don't mean to offend you because I know you're a big fan of anime. And again, when you look at this stuff, to me, it's like I can see where he thought he'd get away with a lot of the work because, like you were mentioning that some of the characters were kind of very obvious echoes of other manga characters. But to the uninitiated, you look at it and say, well, there's an anime character with crazy black hair.
Right.
What's the difference?
So, right. And this is to draw a corollary to what I was saying in the first segment about how this has just happened all the time for me, especially with anime and manga. Mm-hmm. And the reason why there's such a big outcry is because manga and anime have become huge. Like, compared to the fans back in the early 90s, it was unimaginable back in the day that it would be this huge.
Well, when the movie The Matrix came out, was that 12 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever it was?
1999.
You were like, that's from this anime, that's from this anime, and it was just like, there was never any homage or any credit given, but there were things that, you showed me, hey, these like octopus robots are from this one, and you would show me a clip from it, and like this, pose where the agent's like landing like this with a gun, and I'm like, yeah, it's pretty obviously, taken from those sources. So yeah, you're right. I mean, people, but that's a situation where I was gonna say people didn't think that you have a small subset of people who love manga and anime.
Right.
The internet wasn't even like really in full effect at the time. So nowadays, people who swipe, it's a lot easier to be able to say, hey, this came from this came from that, this came from this Google search, this came from this porn title.
But also, it's the fans of manga and anime in this country are maybe even outnumber comic book fans. So that's the voice that's getting behind it, and these are all the people this fan base that didn't exist 20 years ago are the ones that are really calling for this guy's head.
Well, what did you say? What Bleach sells? How many copies in the United States?
About 1 million.
That's more than any comic book.
That easily outsells the Siege.
Oh, right. No, manga is on the book scan. On book scan, the list of the amount of copies sold. Manga is easily just kills the American market here.
So, just to say again, the backtrack, I mean, Nick Simmons can say, I'm just trying to take these things and make them accessible for
or you can say prove
my
it.
Audience, maybe.
You can just say prove it.
Prove it?
I mean, hey, I happen to draw a guy who has a scar across his face and he's cackling. That happens in a lot of things. And, and I can see where... and there have been instances where people have jumped down an artist's throat and said, hey, you're copying this from that. Well, there's only so many ways you can draw Superman breaking out of chains or something that.
Right.
So you're going to see visual cues that keep coming up. But somebody who knows art can see when someone is actually taking a drawing and all the little tiny idiosyncrasies of that drawing are showing up in his drawing. Mm-hmm. That's a different thing than just, having two guys that are both laughing maniacally. I mean, there's been a million Joker pages where he's been laughing maniacally. Mm-hmm. This is not that. This is not the situation.
Right. And so now, one of the questions that I'd like to pose that would probably come for this, Radical, obviously, I don't think that the guys at Radical had anything to do with this. They didn't know what they were getting into.
No, they were letting the creators do their thing.
Exactly.
They were giving them a
platform.
So,
for up-and-coming artists and writers or creators who want to get into small publishing like Radical, is it going to be tougher for them now? I mean, I really want to know, is there going to be some kind of policy at Radical with new, are they going to start really checking into these people's works and backgrounds and seeing where, because this is really shameful to Radical. I mean, it's not their fault. I mean, they're getting caught with their pants down, and it has nothing to do with that.
Well, it's in their defense. I mean, we're not talking about some kid off the street who tried to impress them with a book full of manga drawings and said, I want to do a manga book, and Incarnate took a chance on. Radical took a chance. This is Nick frickin' Simmons. I mean, and he came with this whole fan base and this marketing media machine behind him. Who are you, Radical Small Press, to say, sorry, but we're really not interested.
And the thing is, when they're publishing this book, they know it's very derivative of obviously, even though there was no swiping involved, if that was the case, obviously he appropriated the style because Nick Simmons didn't, grow up in Japan, was influenced, by osmosis by the Japanese.
Well, you look at Nick Simmons' DeviantArt page, and the art is completely different from there. And I think it's kind of funny that there are no character designs, there's no work from this actual comic book, because none of that stuff existed before he watched Bleach or Hellsing for him.
Well, again, and this is a situation where it's obviously it's a derivative work of manga, like you said. Best case distilled from his love of the tropes of manga. But the thing is, when it comes down to it, is it shameful artistically? Yes. Is it shameful, or is it a legal issue? Probably not that big of a deal. Right. Like the creator of Bleach probably doesn't give a crap about this. Right. Mm-hmm. Now, if his if the roles were reversed and Bleach was a small, struggling, independent comic book that got ripped off, Gentleman Bronco style for this gigantic, successful Incarnate, it would probably be a different story. But in this situation, I mean, it's someone who's almost like doing fan art, putting it into his own story.
But see, that's one of.
I'm not saying it's the same as fan art.
No. But that's actually one of the defenses that I read, that it's fan art.
What, this is?
Yes.
No. This is published work.
I understand that, but that's another one of the defenses that I wanted to bring up that I actually did read about.
What's more despicable is taking the fan art from DeviantArt and appropriating that for print, because that's somebody who, that person's not making tons of money on their work.
Right.
They're putting up there just to share with other artists, and they basically got their pants taken down.
Well, in this age with digital media and the internet, you every time you put your stuff out there for free, that's the risk you're taking. That's kind of the risk you're taking.
Well, I mean, that's the same. That's like saying, every time you put your credit card out there, you're taking that risk. It's not an appropriate risk. I mean,
no. If I put my credit card number out there for people to see, yes.
Well, I'm saying when you put your credit card number, like when you scan it at a store, the clerk's got access to it, the store's got access to it. Yeah. If they were to then take that credit card and use it at another store, it would not be like, well, them's the breaks.
No,
I mean that's not illegal.
That is true. But then if I want to make sure that my credit card number is never stolen, I don't use it. Same way. If I don't want my art getting stolen, I don't put it out there for free.
Do you use your credit card?
I pay a lot of cash.
I just saw you use your credit card earlier today at 7-Eleven.
That's all he does. I've never seen him pay with cash.
Did you want that to be stolen? Because you were like, I'm good with this. I'm like, buying the coffee and the iced tea, it's worth me risking.
And I bought you your iced tea, too.
And I don't want you to lose your identity.
Son of a bitch.
Identity theft. I'm trying to save you.
Son of a bitch.
I'm trying to help you, like any good superhero reader would. But yeah, I don't think that's a valid. Saying that when you put it out there, it can be stolen. Not really. DeviantArt's got like very strict guidelines of what you're supposed to do with people's work.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it can happen.
Somebody can beat me up in the parking lot, but I don't. It can happen.
Right. Yeah.
Or I might be able to beat up.
I prefer to blame the victim.
Nice. Shouldn't have been drawing things so sexily.
Shouldn't have been so good.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have worked so good to steal.
Yeah, you shouldn't have been so. Yes, should have been wearing that skirt so.
Yeah, right. She was asking for it.
Oh.
Do you think that Incarnate gets as much attention, or that people even discover it if Nick Simmons isn't the one who's doing it?
I know who Nick Simmons is. I've never heard of Incarnate before today.
Well,
never heard of it.
Again, now we're comic book nerds. You forget that there are other people out there who watch that show and who will pick up that book because he is a son of Gene Simmons.
I'm sure.
I mean, with this book, let's be honest.
It's still not going to get.
They're not aiming for us. I'm just saying, but they're not aiming for us. They're not aiming for the established manga fan. This book is aiming towards all those people out there who've never read it before. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I think that's why Nick Simmons chose the tack that he did, because he knew that established manga fans aren't going to read this book.
But it was out on the internet. You can't.
I'm just saying.
I understand that, but that's such a stupid way to think. If that's what he was doing,
because what he was thinking. Yeah, I mean, maybe he was just like, I have a story that I'm burning to tell, and I don't have the capabilities, the skill level to pull it off myself.
Yeah, I've been really wanting to retell that Helsing story that I love so much. I'm gonna do my own comic book.
But this character's got black hair.
It's different.
Speaking of things,
party differently.
Something that we'll bring up in the next segment. No, I'll bring this up in the next segment.
Thank God.
That's what they call a teaser.
It's a teaser. When we come back, we're going to talk about some more stuff here, and hopefully he's not going to get angrier at me and throw something. We'll see you then.